The phone rang at 11:30 on a Tuesday night. I had not heard from my mother in 3 years, but I recognized her voice immediately when she whispered my name. "Ruby, please do not hang up." Her words trembled with desperation. "Your father needs a liver transplant. The doctors say you are the only family member who could be a match." I stared at the ceiling of my Denver apartment, remembering the last time I saw my father. He had looked me in the eyes and told me I was no longer his daughter because I dared to report what my brother Jason, the golden child, had done to me. Before I tell you about the most difficult decision of my life, let me know where you are watching from. Hit that like button if you have ever faced injustice within your own family. Subscribe to follow real stories about life's hardest moments. Now let me take you back 3 years to understand how I got here. Growing up in our middle-class neighborhood in Columbus, Ohio, I always knew I was living in Jason's shadow. My brother, 4 years older than me, seemed to excel at everything effortlessly. While I struggled to maintain decent grades, Jason brought home honor roll certificates every semester. When I tried out for soccer and barely made junior varsity, Jason was already team captain of varsity football and being recruited by colleges. Our father, David, worked as a mechanical engineer at a local manufacturing company. He spent most evenings in his garage workshop tinkering with old car engines. But whenever Jason walked in, Dad's face would light up in a way it never did for me. They would talk about sports statistics, college plans, and Jason's future, as if I was not even in the room. My mother, Patricia, worked as a registered nurse at the Children's Hospital downtown. She was gentler than Dad, but she still treated Jason like he could do no wrong. From the time I was 7 and Jason was 11, I noticed something was off about the way he looked at me. When our parents were not around, Jason would find excuses to be near me. He would brush against me in the hallway, saying it was an accident. He would make comments about how I was developing when I started wearing training bras. When I told Mom that Jason made me uncomfortable, she would laugh it off and say, "Brothers tease their sisters, honey. That is just how siblings are." The incidents escalated when Jason turned 16 and got his driver's license. He would offer to drive me to school, then take detours through empty parking lots where he would try to touch my legs or make inappropriate comments about my body. When I refused to ride with him anymore, I had to explain to my parents why I preferred walking 2 miles to school in the rain rather than accepting help from my loving big brother. During Jason's senior year of high school, our family threw him a graduation party. All of his friends came over along with extended family and neighbors. I was 14 and excited to celebrate with everyone. But when I went to get more ice from the garage freezer, Jason followed me. He cornered me behind Dad's workbench and pressed himself against me, whispering disgusting things in my ear about what he wanted to do to me. When I tried to push him away, he grabbed my wrists and held them above my head. I started crying and begging him to stop, but he just laughed and said no one would believe me if I told them. I managed to break free and run back to the party, but Jason arrived a few minutes later, acting completely normal. He even made a touching speech thanking our parents for their support. Everyone praised him for being such a thoughtful son. That night, I tried to tell Mom what happened, but she was exhausted from hosting and said we could talk tomorrow. By morning, she had forgotten all about it. Jason left for college at Ohio State University that fall, and I felt like I could breathe again. For 4 years, I only had to see him during holidays and summer breaks. I focused on my studies, joined the debate team, and made plans to attend a university as far from Ohio as possible. I chose the University of Colorado at Boulder, partly because I loved the mountains, but mostly because it was 1,000 miles away from my family. College gave me the space I needed to understand that what Jason had done to me was not normal sibling behavior. I took psychology classes and learned about sexual abuse and family dynamics. I started seeing a counselor at the Student Health Center who helped me recognize that I had been living with trauma for years. She encouraged me to consider telling my parents the truth about Jason, but I was not ready yet. After graduation, I moved to Denver and started teaching 3rd grade at an elementary school in a diverse neighborhood. I loved working with children because they were honest and straightforward in ways that adults were not. I built a life for myself that felt safe and predictable. I had my own apartment, a job I enjoyed, and a small circle of friends. but I still went home to Ohio for major holidays because I could not bear the thought of my parents thinking I had abandoned them too. Jason, meanwhile, had graduated from law school and passed the bar exam. He married his college girlfriend, Emma, a beautiful blonde woman who worked in marketing. They bought a house in the same neighborhood where we grew up and had 2 children. Every time I visited, Dad would brag about Jason's latest promotion at his law firm or show me photos of his grandchildren. Mom would ask when I was going to find a nice man and settle down like Jason had. 3 years ago, I made the decision to drive home for Thanksgiving. I had been feeling guilty about only visiting twice a year, and Mom had been calling more frequently saying she missed me. When I arrived at the house on Wednesday evening, I learned that Jason and Emma had recently separated. Dad explained that they were working through some differences, and Jason was staying in his old room until they figured things out. That first evening felt almost normal. We watched football, ate Mom's famous apple pie, and caught up on family news. Jason was polite but distant, which I preferred. He spent most of the time on his phone, presumably dealing with his divorce proceedings. I started to think that maybe he had changed, that the inappropriate behavior had been a phase he had outgrown. Thursday's Thanksgiving dinner went smoothly. Emma brought the kids over for a few hours, and we all played in the backyard while the adults prepared food. Jason was attentive to his children and cordial to Emma despite their separation. For a moment, I wondered if I had been too harsh in my judgment of him. Maybe the counseling I had received in college had made me see problems that were not really there. That night, I settled into my childhood bedroom, which Mom had converted into a guest room after I moved away. The twin bed was the same, but she had replaced my old posters with generic landscape paintings and added a desk where my dresser used to be. I fell asleep easily exhausted from the long day of family activities. I woke up around 2 in the morning when I felt the mattress dip beside me. In my grogginess, I thought maybe one of Jason's kids had wandered in looking for a bathroom. But when I opened my eyes, I saw Jason sitting on the edge of my bed. The hallway light behind him created a silhouette, but I could tell he was wearing only boxer shorts. "What are you doing?" I whispered, immediately alert. "I missed you, Ruby," he said, reaching out to touch my hair. "We never get to spend time alone anymore." I tried to sit up and move away from him, but he placed his hand on my chest and pushed me back down. "Jason, get out of my room right now." Instead of leaving, he climbed fully onto the bed and positioned himself over me. "Come on, we are both adults now. No one has to know." His breath smelled like the whiskey Dad had been serving after dinner. When he started pulling at my pajama top, I realized this was not going to stop unless I made it stop. I used all my strength to push him off me and scrambled toward the head of the bed. "Get away from me! Get out!" Jason lunged toward me again, grabbing my ankle and trying to pull me back. I kicked at him with my free leg and screamed as loudly as I could. Within seconds, I heard footsteps pounding down the hallway. Dad burst through the door first, followed by Mom. "What is going on in here?" Dad demanded, turning on the overhead light. Jason immediately started talking. "I heard Ruby crying out in her sleep. I came in to check on her and she woke up confused. I think she was having a nightmare." I stared at him in disbelief. "That is not what happened. He was trying to—" I looked at my parents, who were both staring at me with concern. "He was trying to force himself on me." Mom moved toward the bed. "Sweetie, you seem really upset. Are you sure you were not dreaming?" I was not dreaming. I pulled my pajama top back into place and noticed that the buttons were partially undone. "Look at my clothes. Look at what he did." Dad glanced at Jason, who was shaking his head sadly. "Ruby, you have been under a lot of stress with your job. Maybe you should consider talking to someone when you get back to Denver." The room fell silent except for my ragged breathing. I looked back and forth between my parents and my brother. Jason's expression was one of concerned confusion, as if he genuinely could not understand why I was so upset. Mom reached out to touch my forehead, checking for a fever. Dad crossed his arms and sighed heavily. "I know exactly what I experienced," I said firmly. "And this was not the first time. Jason has been inappropriate with me since we were kids." The atmosphere in the room shifted dramatically. Dad's face darkened and Mom stepped back as if I had slapped her. "Ruby Elizabeth, that is enough," Dad said in a voice I had never heard him use before. "Your brother came in here to help you, and you are accusing him of terrible things." Because terrible things happened. Jason finally spoke again. "I think Ruby needs professional help, Dad. These accusations are really concerning." I spent the rest of that night sitting in the living room, too shaken to go back to sleep. My parents stayed up for another hour talking in hushed voices in their bedroom. I could not make out the words, but I could tell they were discussing me, not Jason. The next morning, I made the decision that would change everything. While my family was still sleeping, I drove to the police station in downtown Columbus. I walked up to the front desk and told the officer on duty that I needed to report a sexual assault. Detective Lisa Rodriguez interviewed me for over 2 hours. She was patient and professional, asking detailed questions about the previous night and the history of inappropriate behavior. When I mentioned the incidents from our childhood, she explained that the statute of limitations had expired for those, but the attempted assault from the previous night could be prosecuted if there was sufficient evidence. The hardest part was when Detective Rodriguez asked if I wanted to press charges. I knew that filing a report would set off a chain of events I could not control. But I also knew that if I did not speak up now, Jason would continue to believe he could do whatever he wanted without consequences. "Yes," I told her, "I want to file charges." Within hours, police officers arrived at my parents' house to arrest Jason. I was not there to see it happen because Detective Rodriguez had advised me to stay away until the initial investigation was complete. But Mom called me that afternoon crying so hard I could barely understand her words. "How could you do this to our family?" She sobbed into the phone. "How could you destroy your brother's life over a misunderstanding?" The legal process that followed was a nightmare I could never have prepared for. Jason hired one of the most expensive criminal defense attorneys in Columbus, a man named Richard Sterling, who specialized in high-profile cases. Within days, Jason was released on bail and back at work as if nothing had happened. Meanwhile, I had to find a lawyer I could afford on a teacher's salary. The public defender's office referred me to a woman named Linda Chen, who handled sexual assault cases. She was compassionate and knowledgeable, but she warned me from the beginning that cases like mine were difficult to prove. Without physical evidence or witnesses, it becomes a matter of credibility, Linda explained during our first meeting. The defense will try to paint you as unstable or vindictive. We need to be prepared for that. I thought I was prepared, but nothing could have readied me for what came next. Jason's attorney filed motions requesting my medical records, claiming that my mental health history was relevant to the case. When I protested, Linda explained that my previous counseling for depression during high school could be used to question my reliability as a witness. The betrayal deepened when I learned that Mom had voluntarily provided those records to Jason's attorney. She called me the night before they were submitted to the court. "I had to do it, Ruby," she said, her voice hollow. "Richard Sterling said it would help the judge understand that you have been struggling for a long time. You gave them ammunition to attack me," I replied, feeling nauseous. "You are supposed to be my mother. I am trying to protect our whole family, including you." The preliminary hearing was held on a gray Tuesday morning in January. I sat in the witness box and recounted everything that had happened on Thanksgiving night. Jason's attorney cross-examined me for nearly 3 hours, asking invasive questions about my personal life, my relationships, and my mental health treatment. "Is it not true that you have harbored resentment toward your brother since childhood?" he asked. "I have been afraid of him since childhood," I corrected. "But you continued to visit your family home knowing he would be there because I love my parents." "Love your parents enough to destroy their son's reputation?" Linda objected, but the damage was done. I could see the doubt creeping into the judge's expression. When Jason took the stand, he spoke eloquently about his concern for my well-being and his shock at the accusations. He presented himself as a loving brother who had only wanted to comfort his troubled sister. The media attention started during the second week of proceedings. A local newspaper picked up the story, describing it as prominent local attorney accused by sister. Social media exploded with opinions from people who did not know any of us. Some supported me for speaking out, but many others accused me of trying to destroy a good man's career. The harassment extended beyond online comments. I received threatening phone calls at my school, and someone spray-painted "liar" on my car. Several parents requested that their children be moved out of my classroom. My principal, Dr. Williams, was supportive and refused those requests, but I could tell the situation was putting strain on the entire school community. Meanwhile, Jason's life seemed largely unaffected. His law firm placed him on temporary administrative leave, but with pay. His estranged wife, Emma, made a public statement supporting him, saying she had never witnessed any inappropriate behavior during their marriage. The worst part was watching my extended family choose sides. My father's brother, Uncle Mike, posted on social media about false accusations ruining good men's lives. My cousin Sarah, whom I had been close to growing up, sent me a text message saying I was sick for making up lies about Jason. 3 weeks before the trial was scheduled to begin, District Attorney Helen Morrison called Linda with devastating news. Emma had changed her mind about testifying. She had originally agreed to speak about Jason's behavior during their marriage, but now she was refusing to cooperate with the prosecution. Without Emma's testimony about his pattern of behavior, we are looking at a very weak case, Linda explained. The defense has done an excellent job of portraying you as an unreliable narrator. So, what are my options? We can proceed to trial and hope the jury believes you, or we can consider accepting a plea deal. Jason's attorney offered a deal where Jason would plead guilty to misdemeanor harassment and receive probation with mandatory counseling. No jail time, no sex offender registration, and the incident would be sealed after 2 years. I wanted to refuse. I wanted my day in court, a chance to tell the whole truth in front of a jury. But Linda helped me understand the reality of the situation. If we lose at trial, he walks away completely free, she said. If you accept this plea, at least there is some acknowledgement that he did something wrong. Against every instinct in my body, I agreed to the plea deal. Jason stood in front of Judge Patricia Kowalski and admitted to engaging in unwanted physical contact with me. He was sentenced to 2 years of probation and required to attend weekly counseling sessions. As we left the courthouse, reporters shouted questions at both of us. Jason's attorney gave a statement saying his client was pleased to put this unfortunate misunderstanding behind him. I walked to my car in silence, feeling like I had somehow lost even though I had won. The phone call I had been dreading came 3 days after the sentencing hearing. Dad's voice was colder than I had ever heard it. "I need you to come to the house this afternoon," he said. "We need to talk." I knew what was coming, but some naive part of me hoped that maybe my parents had finally understood the truth about Jason. Maybe they had realized that their golden child was not who they thought he was. When I arrived at the house, both my parents were waiting for me in the living room. Mom's eyes were red from crying, and Dad sat rigidly in his favorite armchair. Jason was not there, but I could feel his presence anyway. "Sit down, Ruby," Dad said, not looking at me. I remained standing. "What did you want to talk about?" "Your brother is the most important thing in this world to your mother and me," Dad began. "He has worked his entire life to build his reputation and his career. You have destroyed all of that with your accusations." I told the truth about what he did to me. Dad held up his hand to stop me from speaking. "I do not want to hear any more lies. Jason is a good man who made a mistake in trying to help his troubled sister. You took advantage of his kindness and twisted it into something sick." Mom spoke for the first time. "We cannot have someone in our family who would do this to Jason. It is not fair to him or to his children." The words hit me like physical blows. "Are you saying what I think you are saying?" Dad stood up and walked to the mantelpiece where family photos were displayed. He picked up a framed picture of the 4 of us from my college graduation and held it in his hands. "Jason Alexander is our son," he said formally. "You are no longer our daughter." The room spun around me. Dad, you cannot mean that. I mean every word. You made your choice when you decided to destroy this family. Now we are making ours. Mom sobbed quietly into her hands, but she did not contradict him. I waited for her to speak up for me to tell Dad he was going too far, but the silence stretched on until I realized she had already made her choice too. What about all the years I was your daughter? I asked. What about when you taught me to ride a bike, or when you came to my school plays, or when you helped me move into my first apartment? Those memories are tainted now, Dad replied. Every time I think about them, I will remember that you grew up to be someone who would lie about her own brother. I looked around the living room where I had spent countless hours as a child, the couch where Mom used to read me bedtime stories, the coffee table where we played board games during snow days, the window seat where I used to sit and watch for Dad to come home from work. I need you to leave now, Dad continued, and I need you to understand that you are not welcome here anymore. What if there is an emergency? What if someone gets sick? We will handle our family problems within our family. You are not part of that anymore. I walked toward the front door, then turned back one more time. I forgive you for not believing me, I said. But I will never forgive you for choosing him over me. Mom finally looked up at me. Ruby, if you would just admit that you made a mistake. The only mistake I made was thinking that my parents would love me enough to protect me. I left the house and drove straight back to Denver. The next morning, I called the school district and requested an immediate transfer to a different school. I needed to start completely over somewhere that Jason's influence could not reach. Over the next few months, I slowly built a new life. I found a therapist, Dr. Sarah Martinez, who specialized in trauma and family estrangement. She helped me understand that my parents' rejection was about their own inability to face the truth, not about my worth as a person. Families like yours often have an investment in maintaining their image, Dr. Martinez explained. Acknowledging what Jason did would mean acknowledging that they failed to protect you for years. That is too threatening to their sense of themselves as good parents. I joined a support group for sexual assault survivors, where I met other women who had been through similar experiences. Many of them had also been rejected by their families for speaking out. Their strength and resilience inspired me to keep moving forward. My career flourished during this time. The new school district appreciated my experience and dedication. Within 18 months, I was promoted to assistant principal at a middle school in a growing suburb of Denver. I loved the challenges of administration and the opportunity to advocate for students who needed extra support. I also started volunteering with an organization that provided legal advocacy for survivors of domestic violence and sexual assault. The work was emotionally demanding, but it felt meaningful to help other women navigate the systems that I had struggled through myself. Slowly, I began to build new relationships. I dated occasionally, though trust did not come easily. I made friends through work and volunteer activities. I adopted a rescue dog named Copper, who became my loyal companion. For 3 years, I heard nothing from my family in Ohio. I sent Christmas and birthday cards that went unanswered. I called on holidays and got voicemail messages that were not returned. I existed in a strange limbo where the people who had raised me acted as if I had never been born. Then came the phone call that brought everything full circle. Ruby, please do not hang up. Mom's voice was barely a whisper. I know we have not talked, but I need you to know something. Your father is dying. I gripped the phone and sat down heavily on my couch. Copper jumped up beside me, sensing my distress. What happened to him? Liver failure. The doctors say it is from drinking. He has been drinking heavily since... She trailed off, unable to finish the sentence. Since he disowned me. The doctors say he needs a transplant immediately, or he will not survive the month. We have all been tested, but Jason is not a match, and neither am I. The doctors want to test you. I stared out the window of my apartment at the Rocky Mountains in the distance. Why would you think I would help him after what he did to me? Because you are a good person, Ruby. You always were. good enough to save his life, but not good enough to be his daughter. Mom started crying again. I know we hurt you. I know we made terrible mistakes, but please do not let him die because of what we did. I told her I needed time to think and hung up the phone. That night, I did not sleep at all. I walked around my apartment, played with copper, and tried to process what Mom had asked of me. The next morning, I called Dr. Martinez and scheduled an emergency session. I also reached out to my support group and asked for an additional meeting. What does your gut tell you, doctor? Martinez asked during our session. That I want him to acknowledge what really happened before I agree to help him. What would that look like? I thought about it for several minutes. I would want him to admit publicly that he was wrong about Jason. I would want him to apologize to me in front of the whole family, and I would want everyone to agree to family therapy if I go through with the surgery. Those are reasonable conditions for such a huge sacrifice. But what if he refuses? Then you will know that he values his pride more than his relationship with you, and that will tell you everything you need to know. That evening, I called Mom back and explained my conditions. She was quiet for a long time after I finished speaking. I will talk to your father, she finally said. 2 days later, Dad called me himself. His voice was weak, but his tone was as stubborn as ever. Your mother says you want me to lie about Jason before you will help me. I want you to tell the truth about Jason. The truth is that Jason is a good man who made a small mistake, and you have blown it completely out of proportion. The truth is that Jason has been sexually inappropriate with me since we were children, and you chose to protect him instead of me. I will not say that. I will not destroy my son to save my own life. Then I cannot help you. The line went quiet except for his labored breathing. Dad, all I ever wanted was for you to believe me and protect me. You chose Jason then, and you are choosing Jason now. I offered you a chance to have both of your children back, but you would rather die than admit you were wrong. Yes, he said simply. I would rather die. I hung up the phone and cried harder than I had since the night Jason attacked me. Not because I regretted my decision, but because I finally understood that my father had never really seen me as his daughter. I had always been secondary to Jason in his mind. Dad died 2 weeks later. Mom called to let me know about the funeral arrangements, but I chose not to attend the service. Instead, I drove to a park near my apartment and sat by a lake thinking about the man who had raised me and the relationship we never had. A few days after the funeral, I received a package in the mail. Inside was the framed photo from my college graduation that Dad had been holding the day he disowned me. There was no note, but I understood that Mom was trying to give me something back. I looked at the picture for a long time, studying the faces of my younger self and my family. We all looked so happy in that moment, so normal. It was hard to believe that the smiling man with his arm around me would later tell me I was no longer his daughter. I put the photo in a drawer, not ready to display it, but not willing to throw it away either. Maybe someday I would be able to look at it without feeling the sharp pain of loss, but that day had not come yet. Over the following months, I focused on moving forward rather than looking back. I threw myself into my work and my volunteer activities. I started dating a man named Mark, who was also a survivor of childhood trauma. We understood each other's healing journey in ways that felt natural and supportive. I also began writing about my experiences first in a journal recommended by Dr. Martinez, and later in articles for survivor advocacy websites. Sharing my story helped other women who were struggling with family rejection after speaking out about abuse. 1 year after Dad's death, I received an unexpected phone call from Emma Jason's ex-wife. She'd seen one of my articles online and wanted to reach out. "I owe you an apology," she said. "I knew Jason had problems with boundaries, but I was too scared to speak up during your case." "What kind of problems?" "He would touch me in ways I did not want when I was sleeping. He made inappropriate comments about other women, including family members. He had anger issues that scared me." "Why did you not say anything then?" "Because I was afraid of what he might do if I crossed him. and because your parents made it clear that anyone who supported you would be cut off from the family. Emma's call confirmed what I had always known but could never prove. Jason's behavior toward me was not an isolated incident, but part of a larger pattern. Knowing that gave me a sense of validation that the legal system had never provided. These days, my life in Denver feels full and meaningful. I was promoted again last year to principal of a new elementary school. I love the opportunity to create a safe environment where children can learn and grow without fear. Mark and I moved in together 6 months ago, and we are talking about getting married next year. He understands that I may never have a traditional relationship with my biological family, and he supports my chosen family of friends and colleagues. I still think about my parents sometimes, especially Mom. I wonder if she ever regrets the choice she made to stand by Jason instead of protecting me. I wonder if she thinks about me when she sees news stories about other families torn apart by abuse allegations. But I have learned not to waste energy, hoping for apologies that will never come or relationships that were never healthy to begin with. The family I have built for myself in Colorado is based on honesty, mutual respect, and genuine care. Those are things I never had growing up in Ohio, but they are things I refuse to live without now. Sometimes the hardest lesson in life is learning that love should not require you to sacrifice your truth. I gave my father a choice between his pride and his life, and he chose pride. That taught me something I will never forget. Some people will never choose you even when their life depends on it, and that is not your failing, it is theirs. I still teach kids every day, and when I see them struggle with difficult family situations, I tell them this: you cannot save people who do not want to be saved, but you can always save yourself. And sometimes, that is the greatest gift you can give to the world. What would you have done in my situation? Have you ever had to choose between family loyalty and your own truth? Let me know in the comments below, and please hit that like button if my story resonated with you. Do not forget to subscribe for more real stories about overcoming family trauma and building a life of authenticity. Share this video with anyone who might need to hear that they are not alone in their struggle. Thank you for listening to my story and for being part of a community that believes survivors. I hope that wherever you are in your own journey, you know that you deserve to be believed, protected, and loved. Take care of yourselves, and remember that your truth matters more than anyone's comfort with that truth.